Alrighty guys, Scotland versus Fiji. This is going to be quite an exciting game. Had to wait a bit of a while for these teams to come out. Been a bit weird. They've really delayed. The Fiji team came out at about 11 p.m. last night, so I haven't had time to do a video. Considering this is the first game of the weekend, I thought this team might have come out a bit sooner, but we've already done a bunch of the preview videos on the channel already. You can go check them out after this one. There's a bunch to look through already. So Scotland versus Fiji, a game I'm really looking forward to. I really want to know where both these teams are at, and it's a fixture I feel like we don't really get to see very often, so I'm really looking forward to that. So let's talk about Scotland first, because obviously last week Scotland did play Australia. They came away with a loss in that game, and there were some weird decisions going on in that game. Scotland adapted a bit more of quite a defensive strategy. It certainly felt like for the first half initially that Australia had all the momentum of the game behind them. Scotland were having to resort to trying to go kicking for posts. When they were on the attack, they were doing really well, but there was so often in that game where they just kept implementing this sort of kicking strategy that didn't really work for them. An awful lot of box kicks coming from Ali Price, a lot of people kicking the ball downfield. Australia were keeping it in and just going on a counter-attack. And the scoreline being as close as it was, I feel is a bit of a testament to how well the Scotland defence actually held up on their own try line to not concede more tries. But I feel with the momentum of having watched that game live, Australia potentially could have won by more, and Scotland could have stolen it right at the end with that 3-point miss from Kinghorn. So Scotland would have left that game, I think, a little bit disappointed. There just wasn't as much ambition going into that game as I sort of expected from them. So going into this week, Scotland have made a couple changes. Now, this team to me is, I think, better than the team that played Australia, which I find really weird why they made that decision. I feel like had they had this team last week, even though there's only a couple of changes, it might have just worked out a little bit better for them. But we'll have a look through the team to see any of the changes going on. Starting off in this front row, Pierre Schoeman alongside George Turner and Xander Fagerson. Now, the scrummaging last week didn't really get underway. We didn't really have that many completed scrums and really launching into anything. But the line-out situation is where it was a bit more competitive, so that was nice to see. In the lock department, speaking of line-out situations, Richie Gray coming back in. Feel like I haven't said Richie Gray's name for a good while now, alongside Grant Gilchrist as the other vice captain in the team. There's two vice captains and a captain. You can't have too many captains in this Scotland team. In the back row, Jamie Ritchie alongside Hamish Watson and Matt Fagerson. All three of which a little bit quiet again last week. I mean, defensively, I think they were all pretty sound. But again, I didn't really think of too many times I saw Matt Fagerson just hounding the ball up from that fullback position where he just should never have a number 8 and just charging forwards. Didn't really get to see a lot of that last week. So hopefully they'll just keep the ball in hand a bit more this week and not just give possession away, especially a team against like Fiji. Love playing the running rugby. I don't think you want to give them the ball, so I would try and cut down that kicking tactics a bit now. In the halfback partnership, Ali Price retains at scrum half with a change of fly half. Adam Hastings comes in ahead of Kinghorn. A lot of people were quite disappointed last week in Kinghorn's kicking ability and sort of just general performance in the game. I thought he was doing pretty well, but the kicks towards the post just... You got to hit them. You got to hit them in the world of international rugby. Those missed kicks, you lose by a point at the end of the game. They let down 2 earlier chances to go for posts as well. You know, I think maybe this is the right switch here. Give Adam Hastings a chance. I like Adam Hastings as a fly half, so I think hopefully this should bolster this area of the fly half a little bit more. In the centre partnership then, Cameron Redpath comes in alongside a Chris Harris. Now, we haven't really got to talk a lot about Cameron Redpath at centre. He has had a bit of a plague with injuries and not being able to play a lot of minutes in international, so really looking forward to see what this lad gets to do. As far as I'm aware, he loves a bit of running rugby as well, so a team like Fiji, there's just going to be people running around all over the place. It's going to be great to see. But Chris Harris coming in. I think, again, the centres last week, not doing as much as I sort of wanted to see from them. Chris Harris has certainly upped his defence in the last sort of year, 18 months. So hopefully that would just shut down that. We know what Fijian wingers and centres are like. They will come hard at you. So having a better defensive setup in that centre partnership, I think, is a good move. And then finally in that back three, we have Duan van der Merwe on the left wing, Darcy Graham on the right wing, and Stuart Hogg comes back in that full-back position. Now, I know a lot of people are very happy to see Hogg back. Does offer another kicking threat, but like I've already said, I kind of hope they don't kick it away that much. Stuart Hogg is very good on the counter-attacking run. Now, again, if I was Fiji, I would maybe try and keep this ball in hand and not kick it back to them. I think there's a good cover in this backfield now. You know what Duan van der Merwe's going to do? He's just going to run it back from deep. He's a hard man to stop himself. Darcy Graham's got a nice step on him. Stuart Hogg's good on the counter-attack run. If I was Fiji looking at this team, I would say, boys, we're not kicking this ever for the whole game. Let them sit back there. We'll work through our boys. We'll make the meters the hard way, and just don't give these lads the chance to do the counter-attack. And I really think you'd shut down a lot of that Scotland attack. In terms of the replacements then, Ewan Ashman comes in alongside Rory Sutherland and Murphy Walker. So a couple of switch-ups here. Nice to see Rory Sutherland back in the team. Murphy Walker's a name I don't know a lot about, so I'll have to keep a bit of an eye out for him. The rest of the replacement forwards then, Johnny Gray coming in as well. We've got two Gray brothers in one game. I wonder if we'll get to see them on at the same time at some point. And Jack Dempsey in that 20 shirt. In the replacement backs, Ben White coming in, who I'm looking forward to see have a bit more game time. I maybe even would have liked to have seen Ben White start this one. In all honesty, I haven't got to see a great deal of minutes, and we've got to see him in the Six Nations, and he had a really good Six Nations for the limited time we did see him. So I would like to see him get on early. I would like to see him have some international experience. A team like Fiji is a hard team to go up against, but it gives you a great view into what international rugby will be like against some tier 1 teams. I get Ben White on as soon as possible for me. And then starting alongside him, of course, Blair Kinghorn and Sione Tuipulotu. So coverage on the bench is pretty good, to be fair. Blair Kinghorn has been, for the past few years, I've always referred to him as that super sub. Mainly the malleability that he has, being able to cover different positions. He's now sort of certifying himself a bit as being in that fly half position. So now he's got fly half, winger, and fullback. You know, that's a lot of different areas to cover. So I think he's a really good player in that regard, in terms of you can pretty much put him on anywhere and it will give you good coverage. And then in cover in that centre, of course, Tuipulotu coming in there. I imagine might come on for Redpath in that second half. We'll have to see how that gets on. But overall, I think this is a good Scotland team, and I do maintain I think this Scotland team is better than the one that played Australia, and maybe had this team played Australia, we might have been seeing a Scotland win last week. Moving on to Fiji then. Now Fiji's a weird team for me because I just feel like I don't ever get to cover Fiji. They did play very few games that get sort of broadcast on UK TV. The last time I ever actually saw a Fiji game, I think it was against Wales last year when I went to the Principality to go watch them. I don't think I've seen a game from Fiji since that. I've had a little bit of research into recent games for them. And it's incredibly hard to find anything for them. I don't even know if they've played a game this year, to be fair. They must have played at some point. The last 3 games I've got notes for here. Spain, they beat Spain 43-13, so that's a pretty dominant win. Over, I don't know what Spain would be classed as. Tier 2, Tier 3 nation. Fiji is certainly at the top of the Tier 2 level. They had that loss to Wales, barely, in the Principality that I went and saw last year. And then they had a draw against Georgia just at the end of the November Internationals last year. And I'm trying to look it up. I can't find any games that happened more recently, but I feel like I've seen something going on in the Summer International, so maybe they played another Tier 2 game. But in terms of the Fiji team, because they play so few and far between games that I get to cover, it's quite hard for me to keep up with some of the names. So in terms of having a look at the list, I'll sort of let people have a little run through themselves. In terms of names that stand out to me, we have people like Matavesi, Botia, Mata, Lomani. These are people that you will see in this team a little bit more often. A couple of these other names I'm not entirely sure about, people I've seen before. In the outside centre, Waisaya Nyakalevu. Hopefully I'm sort of pronouncing that correctly. Now, I believe he was actually the captain during the game I went to see in the Principality, and I think he scored 2 tries. He's just always waiting on that wing, and he's just on the outside just to go and score that little last bit. A very good player. And then on the right wing, we have Tuisuvu, and in the fullback position, Murivalu. What a great name. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, overall, I don't have a great deal of knowledge about the Fiji team, which is a real shame. So this is going to be one of the games where I get to learn about, and I quite enjoy that. A lot of people come to the channel, they want to know a bit more about rugby and stuff. This is one of the games I get to sit down and watch. This is the first game on the weekend, so you know I'll be sitting down, watching all the commentary, getting to learn a bit more about these players. That's one of the fun things about rugby, just learning about how the different players work, some of their experience, some of their cap levels, what we could expect for them. In terms of the replacements then, not a lot for me to talk about here either, to be fair. A couple of big names that, you know, sort of missing out on here. There's no Semi Randrada anymore. I believe I actually read the other day that Ndolo's also picked up an injury. He usually plays on the wing. He's a massive mountain of a man. So we can't talk too much about the team, unfortunately, but what we can do is talk about the game style of Fiji. Now, like I said, Fiji enjoy their running rugby. We've seen how they got in terms of like the sevens. I believe they've also done pretty well in terms of the Women's World Cup that's been going on as well. So Fiji are an exciting team to watch. They are a team that will absolutely go for you for the full 80 minutes. They will be attempting to score tries. They have wingers and centres that just sort of interchange it like whenever they want to. This is a game where you'll probably be seeing tries. Fiji aren't really the team that sit back and just take threes. So I'm really looking forward to see hopefully some really nice running rugby. Hopefully the weather's going to be with them for this one. I hope this is a sunny game. We just get to see this go crazy. But in terms of a score prediction, I actually think this could be close. I am expecting Fiji to just bring this game. I think they've got a real good chance. They're always desperate to try and get one over on the Tier 1 nations if they can. Do they want to try and cement themselves there? And Scotland last week weren't really firing on all cylinders, but the defensive line on the try line was very, very good for Scotland. The thing I'm a bit worried about is that we did see it last week with people like Tate McDermott just sort of carving through the defence when it was open play, when it's a bit broken. Big meters were being made and some big cover tackles needed to come in. Now, Fiji are a team that love open, running, broken play. So having a team that focuses on that could be a bit of a crutch for Scotland to try and deal with in this game. I'm sure they'll be working very hard in the coaching staff. So in terms of a prediction, I think I'm going to side with Scotland, but not by a lot. And when you normally talk about Tier 1, Tier 2 nations, you expect that to be a bit of a jump. I think I'm going to say Scotland to win. I think I'm going to say by 6. And I think it might even be less than that. It might even go to a Fiji win. It could be really, really exciting. So make sure you guys do drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the game, your score prediction, and make sure you are getting them onto the Super Brew group. Because at the minute, I'm currently winning, and we can't stand for that. Someone needs to be able to beat me, so I'm sure someone will overtake me pretty soon. But hopefully you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. To keep up to date with all of the latest videos, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.